We weren't supposed to be there. The locals had warned us to stay away, their faces pale and grim, but we didn't listen. A tomb, forgotten and untouched by the sands of time, called to me like a siren. I'd read about such discoveries, dreamed about them, and now, as a graduate archaeology student at Cairo University, it was finally my moment. The air was thick with the scent of dust and history as we pried open the stone slab covering the entrance. My professor, Dr. Mahdi, hesitated. "Laura, are you sure about this?" "The villagers." "Folklore." I interrupted, my flashlight piercing the darkness ahead. Superstitions designed to scare people away. We descended into the tomb, our excitement outweighing caution. Hieroglyphs lined the walls, more intricate than anything I'd ever seen. They told a story of Pharaoh cursed by betrayal, buried with an amulet said to trap his vengeful spirit. I laughed at the melodrama, though something about the carvings, those hollow, jackal-like eyes, unnerved me. Among the treasures, the amulet stood out, a gold pendant shaped like an ankh, glowing faintly as though it held the desert sun itself. "Laura, don't," whispered Amir, my closest friend. His voice wavered, the unease in his eyes mirroring what I didn't want to admit I felt. "It's just an artifact." I replied, pocketing it. "It'll look great in the collection." That night, back in the university library, I pored over my notes. The amulet sat on the table, its strange glow dim under the fluorescent lights. But as I wrote, the air seemed to thicken, the shadows lengthening around me. It started as a whisper, faint but unmistakable. I froze, the hair on my arm standing on end. "You took what is mine." The voice was low, guttural, and far too close. My head snapped around. No one was there, just rows of bookshelves and the faint hum of the air conditioning. "Hello." My voice cracked. A shadow flickered at the edge of my vision. When I turned again, it was gone. The security guard laughed when I told him, but his humor faded when he saw my face. He checked the library and found nothing. Embarrassed, I brushed it off, attributing the moment to stress. Yet as I walked home, the whispers followed me, growing louder with each step. At first, I thought it was the wind, but then I heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps, not mine, echoing behind me. I walked faster, heart pounding. The streetlights flickered as though they too feared what approached. A shadow stepped into my path, taller than any man, its shape indistinct yet menacing. It had the unmistakable head of a jackal, its eyes glowing like embers. My legs refused to move. Suddenly, it lunged. Cold hands, or claws, wrapped around my arm, dragging me toward the Nile. I screamed, struggling as its grip tightened, my vision swimming with terror. The river loomed closer, its waters black and uninviting. Then came voices, shouts from nearby tourists. The shadow recoiled, hissing before vanishing like smoke in the wind. The amulet was gone. Relief flooded me until the visions began. The nightmares were relentless, each one more vivid than the last. The jackal-headed figure haunted me, its eyes burning with fury. It wasn't just dreams. I'd see it in reflective surfaces, lurking just behind me, watching. Sleep-deprived and desperate, I sought answers. The tomb. It was the only place I could go. Amir refused to accompany me, and I couldn't blame him. Alone, I returned to the site, the desert seeming colder and less forgiving this time. I stood before the tomb's entrance, trembling. "I'm sorry," I whispered, my voice breaking. "Please forgive me." The air shifted, and the figure materialized, its form towering over me. Its voice echoed, not in my ears but in my mind. "You disturbed my rest. A price must be paid. What do you want?" I pleaded. "I'll return everything. I'll do anything." Its hollow eyes bored into me. A sacrifice. Back at the university, I gathered my thesis. Years of research, passion, and effort reduced to pages that now felt heavier than stone. The spirit demanded something precious, and this was the only thing I had left to offer. Tears streamed down my face as I set the pages ablaze in a brazier. The fire consumed them quickly, smoke curling into the air like ghostly tendrils. As the last ember died, so did the oppressive presence that had clung to me for weeks. The figure was gone. But so was my career. Months later, I stood on the university steps, watching the younger students bustle about. I'd lost everything: my work, my confidence, and my reputation. But I was alive. Some nights, I still hear whispers on the wind, but they're faint now, distant. I know better than to dismiss warnings as mere superstition. Some things are best left undisturbed, buried in the sands of time, and some curses are eternal. I never imagined that an internship would lead me to this. When I first arrived at the archaeological site near the ancient city of Al-Azhar, I thought it would be nothing more than dusty artifacts and old relics. But as I wandered the endless expanse of sand and stone, I began to realize the truth. There are things buried here that should never be uncovered. The dig was ongoing in the most remote part of the desert, far from civilization, near the edge of the Great Sand Sea. Our team of archaeologists was convinced that we had found the tomb of an ancient pharaoh who had been all but forgotten by time, but whose reputation for dark rituals and forbidden knowledge had been passed down through secretive texts. The locals called him the Cursed King, and no one dare approach the site after sunset. I, however, had never been one to heed warnings. It was late one evening when I found myself alone, drawn to the tomb by a strange sense of curiosity. The other team members had retired to their tents for the night, and the camp had grown quiet. I had heard stories from the senior archaeologists, tales of strange noises from within the tomb, of artifacts that seemed to hum with energy, of inexplicable things that had happened ever since they uncovered the entrance. But I dismissed them, thinking they were mere superstition. That night, I couldn't sleep. A gnawing feeling in my gut urged me to go back to the site, to see the tomb with my own eyes. As I sneaked away from the camp, the moonlight bathed the desert in an eerie glow, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch endlessly. The air felt heavier, like the weight of ancient secrets was pressing down on me. The excavation had been going on for weeks, and the entrance of the tomb had been carefully uncovered. Tall sandstone walls framed a vast, deep hole in the earth, and around it lay strange markings, symbols I hadn't seen before in any of the texts I had studied. Even now, standing in front of the tomb's yawning mouth, I could feel something wrong in the air. A chill ran down my spine, but my curiosity outweighed my fear. I crept closer, the crunch of my boots against the sand sounding too loud in the stillness. My flashlight danced across the walls of the tomb, illuminating hieroglyphics I couldn't fully decipher. But one symbol, in particular, caught my attention. It was a depiction of an eye, an unsettling, unnatural eye that seemed to watch me. The moment I locked eyes with it, I felt a strange shiver crawl up my neck. But I couldn't turn back now. I stepped into the tomb. The air inside was musty and cold, and the further I went, the darker it became. The walls were lined with faded frescoes depicting scenes of death, ritual sacrifice, and strange ceremonies that made my stomach churn. There were no lights here, only my flashlight, which flickered as if the tomb itself was resisting its presence. I moved deeper into the labyrinthine corridors, where the temperature seemed to drop with each step. My breath came in short, shaky gasps. It felt as if I were being pulled towards something ancient and malevolent. The feeling of being watched was overwhelming, but when I turned around, there was nothing, no one, only the walls closing in around me. And then I heard it, a whisper, soft, almost inaudible but unmistakable. The voice seemed to emanate from the walls themselves, as if the tomb were alive. I froze, my heart hammering in my chest. The whisper repeated, a strange melodic rhythm that felt almost familiar. Come closer. It wasn't in Arabic, nor in any language I recognized, but somehow I understood. It was as if the words themselves were implanted in my mind. My feet moved against my will, drawn toward the source of the voice. I didn't want to, but I couldn't stop myself. I followed the whispers deeper into the tomb, the walls narrowing until I found myself in a small chamber. It was unlike any other room I'd seen in the tomb, with walls that were smooth, almost unnaturally so. At the center of the room stood a stone altar etched with strange runes. And there, hovering above the altar, was something that sent a cold wave of terror through my body, a shadowy figure, cloaked in darkness, with eyes that glowed in unnatural gold. It was not human. The figure turned to face me, and its lips parted, though I could not hear its words. Instead, the whispering voice filled my mind once again. "Release us." I had no idea what it meant, but the command was clear. There was an overwhelming urge to obey, to touch the altar, to do something that would open whatever ancient prison the figure was bound to. My hand stretched toward it, trembling. Suddenly, the ground shook and a low, thunderous sound echoed through the tomb. The air grew thick, charged with energy I could feel deep within my bones. I jerked my hand back, but it was too late. The shadows around me seemed to come alive, swirling and coiling as if they had been waiting for this moment. From the walls, from the floor, dark, oily shapes began to crawl out, skittering across the stone. And then locusts, thousands upon thousands of locusts, their bodies glistening with a dark sheen, began to pour from every crack, every crevice, filling the chamber and spilling out into the tomb. I screamed, stumbling backward, but it was too late. The swarm descended on me, covering every inch of my skin. They were everywhere, crawling into my mouth, my ears, my nose. The very air thickened with their buzzing, their relentless assault, until I couldn't breathe. The shadowy figure remained at the altar, its eyes glowing with eerie light as the locusts spread throughout the tomb and the dig site above. The cursed insects consumed everything in their path, materials, tools, even the tents. They tore into the flesh of the archaeologists who had been camped nearby, leaving nothing but dust and bone in their wake. I ran, my legs moving of their own accord, pushing me through the labyrinth, but the swarm was relentless. The tomb itself seemed to fight against me, its stone passages twisting and warping. Every step I took, I felt myself being pulled back, dragged deeper into the heart of the curse. Finally, I stumbled out into the open air. The locusts continued to consume the site behind me, their unyielding presence drowning out the sounds of the world. I looked around in horror, searching for anyone, anything. But there was nothing, only silence. It wasn't until I returned to the camp that I realized the true cost of what I had unleashed. My skin was cold to the touch, pale and hardening, like stone. The curse had marked me. Slowly, surely, I was turning into a statue, frozen, unmoving, my body calcifying with each passing moment. I tried to reverse it. I tried to find a way to undo what I had done, but it was too late. The knowledge I had sought had come at too high a price. The curse was not one that could be broken. No incantation could save me now. And as I watched the last remnants of the dig site crumble into nothingness, I understood. Some knowledge is meant to remain buried. Some things are better left untouched. Curiosity, I've learned, can be fatal.